Hi, I'm Dr. Samuel Boone from the University of Melbourne, School of Earth Sciences, and I'm here to tell you about the AuScope Geochemistry Network, or AGN. So the AGN is a subsidiary of AuScope, which is an Australian government-funded organization to promote geospatial science infrastructure. And the AGN's goal within AuScope is to focus primarily on promoting uh, geochemical capabilities across the country. So for those of you unfamiliar with geochemistry, geochemistry is a wide family of, or large family of many different techniques that essentially use the chemistry of rocks or minerals determined through a number of methods, including mass spectrometry or electron microprobe analyses. And we use this information to learn about how our solar system and our planet have evolved and how they operate. And we can use this information to find out about how our solar system formed, for instance, as well as how the interior of our planet operates. We can date past periods of tectonism and find out, for instance, about when ancient mountain ranges formed and about the pressure and temperature um, situation at the time of orogenesis. We can date past periods of volcanism and learn about the source of the magma involved. And we can find out about how, for instance, the surface of our planet has evolved over time, looking at the thermal history of the upper crust. We can also apply these methods to the mining and energy industries. So for instance, we can find out about how uranium-rich ore deposits have formed, perhaps, or study geothermal systems, which we can then learn to better extract renewable energy. So it's our goal at the AGN to essentially promote geochemical science or geochemistry within Australia. And we do that through promoting our existing capabilities, as well as promoting capital and operational investment in advanced geochemical infrastructure. We can support professional development by online tools, training courses, and workshops. And we want to increase end user access to these facilities. And I guess our last goal, and what I'll primarily be speaking about today, is we also want to foster a more fair Australian geochemistry data ecosystem. And we're doing this through the development of a central repository for a range of isotopic data types. And we call this repository or research tool AuSgeochem. So a bit about our structure. At the moment, the AGN consists of or comprises a number of expert geochemists across Australia, spread over 3 nodes at Curtin University, the University of Melbourne, and Macquarie University, and we work closely with AuScope itself. But we aim to expand, and already we're collaborating with a number of other institutions across the country. And the idea is that collectively we can pool our expertise and our resources to produce more novel, innovative geochemistry science or geochemical science in Australia. And by doing so, we can make our science more visible to the wider world. So as I mentioned, this AuSgeochem data platform is kind of our main initiative at the moment. And to build AuSgeochem, we're working with Lithodat, with Dr. Fabian Coleman, Moritz Theiler, and Dr. Wayne Noble. And essentially, they're allowing us to build a really powerful and user-friendly data platform. And the purpose of this data platform is, I guess, twofold. One is to archive publicly funded Australian produced geochemistry data from around the globe. And as I mentioned before, we're doing this for a wide variety of geochemistry techniques. And we want this to be user-friendly, of course, and promote its use. But also we want this tool to allow laboratories and scientists across Australia to produce new and exciting geochemistry analyses using large data sets spread over huge parts of our planet. So one way that we can look at the challenges associated with essentially pooling large amounts of geochemistry data and getting them out into the public domain is through this 3-domain model, whereby geochemistry data is produced within an institution, within a laboratory, say, And then scientists may want to share those data with their collaborators outside of their institution to produce novel science. And to do this, this generally requires a level of curation um, before you can migrate these data to your collaborators. And this might involve some calculations, some synthesis and plotting, producing figures before you send these data off, either electronically, or perhaps it's just handing a colleague a stick drive. And once you're happy with the data that you've produced and you're ready to present this to the public, this generally requires yet another iteration of curation. You might have to mine data that exists previous to your work, produce some further calculations, some further synthesis, and then you generally publish this data through journals. And it's becoming increasingly common that people then also publish the data sets within data repositories in compliance with the data reporting requirements of your institution, funding body, or perhaps the journal you wish to publish in. Now, these curation and migration processes are primarily manual operations at the moment, requiring a lot of time and resources of these institutions. In addition, along this journey, data generally becomes more structured, more accessible, and better preserved. However, simultaneously, you generally lose data resolution, and the data becomes more inflexible. So it's our hope that with AuSgeochem, we essentially want to centralize this, this continuum so that we can improve the way in which Australian geochemists manage their data and store their data, as well as streamline the data handling process. And as I said before, we want to make the Australian geochemistry data ecosystem more fair, whereby data will be more findable, more accessible, more interoperable, and more reusable. So the way we envision AuSgeochem being used in the scientific community is essentially a researcher from a laboratory returns from the field with a rock specimen, or perhaps a colleague has sent you a specimen. And already we can record some of this information within AuSgeochem. We can store, for instance, the location of those samples where they're collected, as well as additional information about those rocks, such as the rock type or lithology, the elevation in which that sample was collected. And you can choose as a laboratory to already make this information public, which means that other scientists from across Australia or from elsewhere in the world could then see, okay, this laboratory has collected samples from, say, this area of Western Australia, and we're interested in doing other types of analyses. So already this is promoting collaboration between laboratories. When you put your sample information into AuSgeochem, the platform is designed so that the samples are automatically minted with IGSNs, or international geosample numbers. And this is critical because it reduces the possibility of duplication or redundancy within the database. So then, say a laboratory does some analyses on those samples and produces some raw data. These could be raw counts off of those mass spectrometers, or they could be digital micrographs or images of samples. And some initial interpolation or data reduction is performed to produce what we call hard data. And these are the data that we're really after with the AuSgeochem platform. And these are the isotopic concentrations or image analyses or ages. So the numbers that we want to work with to actually do some data interpretation. And those data can be stored within the AuSgeochem database, either via the user interface, which guide the user into how best and easiest to put those data into the format required for the database. Or users can develop their own scripts essentially to automatically upload this data using the AuSgeochem Open API or application programming interface. And this is really ideal because essentially this could allow labs to set up a system whereby the data is automatically transferred from the machines that collect the data straight into the AuSgeochem database, meaning that the user doesn't have to actually manually upload those data. Once in the database, we can visualize those data spatially. And as I mentioned, we're doing this for a number of the most commonly used geochemistry techniques listed here. We're also, in addition to the geochemistry information that we're collecting, The platform is designed so that we can also collect information about the funding of different types of these different studies and analytical procedures. Once in the Once you have all of this hard data in the AuSgeochem platform, you essentially have all the information required to start doing some statistical analyses. This is exciting because essentially it levels the data um, field, so to speak, whereby different labs may record and collect data in different ways. But because we have all of the hard data within the platform and within the database, you can then recalculate, for instance, thousands of ages on the fly using the newest parameters and the newest published equations. And as I said, so using it as a statistical toolbox, we can then produce some process data, such as calculated ages or statistical interpretations. And what's really exciting is that you can do all of this while maintaining privacy control. So you can decide that, okay, we're not yet ready to allow the wider public to see these data because we're still trying to publish these results. Say, you could perhaps just disseminate those data to select collaborators so that you guys can work together using the platform. And then when you're ready, you can then publish that data set and make it accessible to the wider public by publishing them as DOIs. You can then look at your data in the context of what's come before. So the AuSgeochem database has thousands of previously published geochemistry data within it, meaning that as a researcher, you can start looking at your data in the context of the science of your specific study area. You can then produce on-the-fly plots and maps within the AuSgeochem database, which you can then export. And this is really exciting. These include age histograms or age versus elevation plots. There's a wide range of method-specific plots that are desired from these different geochemistry communities. And again, you do this all while retaining privacy controls. This is a really excellent research tool for, say, PhD students who are not yet in a position to publish this data, but they can still use the high-functioning analytical capabilities of AuSgeochem nonetheless. And then when you're ready, you can export the data of your choosing. And this includes not only your data, but the data that's already in the database. And you can export it in a wide range of formats. So these could be CSV files, say, or JSON files for the data themselves, or you might want to extract these really powerful plots and maps that you've produced within the platform. So this essentially, the AuSgeochem is this one-stop research tool where you can archive your data. You can streamline the upload by these either the user interface or the open APIs and user-defined scripts. You can mint your samples with IGSNs. You can then use the platform to do statistical analyses. You maintain privacy control. You can disseminate those data, publish those data sets as DOIs. You can mine data and view your data in the context of previously published results. You can then synthesize and visualize those data, and then you can export them in the formats of your choosing. And the beauty of this is that you can do it all while only having to handle your data once, saving institutions significant time and resources. Now, if you want to learn more about AuSgeochem or the AGN, I encourage you to check out their respective websites listed here below. And you can also see we have monthly webinars, and we have a YouTube channel where you can see all these past webinars. And there you can learn about the development of AuSgeochem, about other activities the AGN are performing, as well as learn and hear from specific laboratories from the Australian geochemistry community. So thank you very much. You can also check us out on Twitter and Instagram. And if you have any inquiries or want to learn how you could potentially get involved, please contact us at auscopegeochemistry@gmail.com. Thank you very much.